Good evening, everybody, and welcome to ExtraTyne on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. It may well be wet, windy, and horrific outside, but you're sure of a warm welcome with us four. So, Laura has likely been high as a wheelie bin in Storm Eunice because it's the start of half term. Laura, welcome. Good to see you. How are you feeling today?
Buzzing. Tired, excited. Buzzing.
It's been a long 7 weeks and 2 days, hasn't it, Laura?
Very long. I forgot about the 2 days till someone tweeted.
Well, there you go. And we're also rejoined by Ian just as he takes a drink. There you go, Ian. That was good timing, wasn't it?
Brilliant timing.
Last week you were flying yourself with the Newcastle Eagles. So how was the basketball last week?
It was good. Again, another. Well, they're not really that successful anymore, but they won last week. So had a ball.
Can we count that as a Newcastle win? Can we add that to our winning run? Just sort of like see how the Falcons are doing as well.
Well, you know what it is that because basketball's rage and they play like 8 games in the space of 3 days. They played twice over the weekend and won. So
right. Oh, there you go. And another man who's very familiar with dribbling, but that's usually at the window of that's usually at the window of Bilal's. But yes, Raza, the Split Crow Road Silvio Maric Raza has rejoined us. How are you doing, Raza? How's your day been?
It's been all right, mate. Aye, Canny. Thank you very much for the entrance. Put your teeth back in, but no, it's been all right. Been canny. Maybe hair's a mess up the wind, but can't be helped. You know what I mean? So,
how's Harley Green looking? Is your roof still on?
Just like literally, all joking aside, it's been battered like So
yeah, we've been looking out the window. We've got trees next to ours where the bends, and it's like, oh my god. So
it's been crazy. I've never known a wind like it. It's been unreal, mate.
Aye, really bad. So, but thank you very much as always for joining us. You can add some comments along in the we'll try and show as many as I possibly can, and obviously get involved with the hashtag ExtraTyne if you want to on Twitter as well. Absolutely loads to get through, as I was showing the guys before there. We've got plenty to get through. West Ham coming up, Villa as well, the game that we had last week. Massive result. We've had some movement with possibly an incoming, academy manager as well. We've had Kellen Watts extend an extension to his contract. And, of course, Sir Bobby Robson's birthday today. A couple of other birthdays as well in Newcastle history. Do you anyone else know who else's birthday it is in Newcastle's history today? Do you know?
I feel like I've heard this bit of trivia before, but I don't know.
No, not me.
I'm sure the comments will come through in a minute. But Jermaine Jenas, his birthday, same day as Bobby Robson's, if you remember, when they both signed. Keith Gillespie's birthday today as well.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to write his name down. Yasser Al Rumayyan, our chairman. It's his birthday today as well. So, and obviously Paul Dalglish, who is Newcastle United royalty. So happy birthday to all of those and anybody else celebrating a birthday today or over the weekend. Happy birthday, everybody. We'll come to a little birthday story with Raza from his time out in Europe, but we'll come to that later, Raza. We'll give you a heads up for that one now. So please remember to like and subscribe. There's a subscription for £2.99 to the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. Gets you involved in the Telegram group as well. There's always some good messages flying. The last time I checked, I had about 500 pending. I don't know how many you've got, Laura. You got plenty. Yeah. God knows. But it's always good crack on there. A few random voice messages, possibly from me and Raza as well. You might get a little cheeky one on the way home from the match. But good evening to some of our regulars who joined us as well. So good evening. Tom getting an early shout in for the Hall of Fame. We're going to be discussing our French player. Sorry, Raza, for blocking your face out there, mate. I do apologise.
Quite all right, mate. Quite all right.
Just lift your heat up a little bit. Some honourable mentions for some other ones, which I'm sure we'll come to. Good evening, Davey, as well. Good evening, Freddie. Good evening, Marty. And Grant and Paul, and there's Grant again. 30 years since he went to his first match, Newcastle versus New Zealand. There you go. Happy days.
Was Chris Wood playing?
Yeah. Was he quicker than he was now? Okay, so let's get into it. So 4 wins. Well, could potentially be looking at 4 wins on the bounce at the weekend. 3 in the bag already. 5 games unbeaten. Absolutely unheard of. The game's on BT Sport at 12:30, I believe, at the weekend. So the lads have done a big preview on that one. So if you check out on between Beyond the Lines with Matty, and Chris has done a preview as well with Thomas from War Flags and Mark Wallace. But also, Laura, just a quick one on West Ham coming up. What are your hopes? What you think's, team wise? Do you think he's going to stick with the 11 apart from maybe he's bringing Target back in? Obviously, Trippier's out, so there's decisions to be made. Laura, what do you reckon is going to be happening against West Ham?
Truthfully, I'm pretty nervous about it, only because not even from a footballing perspective, just from a, surely we can't win 4 on the bounce in our position. It would be absolutely amazing if we did, but I just personally can't foresee it. I would love it, but on the other hand, just to put both sides out, I think the momentum is there, and I know it's a proper cliche, but it must have a massive, massive effect if you are winning games. That dressing room will be buzzing. However, then again, just to go back onto a negative, we lost Trippier in Mankillo. However, we have got options there now, so I'm happy for Target to come back in. And in terms of on the right, I would keep it very much the same, meaning I would put Kraft back in, because I just think you need, against West Ham, I'd rather have a defender there than Murphy, who I just don't trust there. Yeah. So I would keep everything the same bar those two. Yeah. But I'm also, I was listening to Matty's Beyond the Lines before, and Chris Wood, apparently the West Ham fan, was saying Chris Wood absolutely loves playing against West Ham and scores loads of goals. So I'm quite hopeful that he may get his first.
Yeah, he's got a good record. Raza, I'll come to you. A lot of word about Bruno. A lot of people very, very keen to get him into the starting lineup. Do you think tomorrow's going to be the day we start him? And if he does stay in, or if he does come in, who do you think might drop out? It's a hard one.
It is a difficult one, because I think, for me personally, you've got one of the best midfielders in the country in Declan Rice in the middle of the park for West Ham. So it's a difficult one. Literally all their players goes through Declan Rice, and they've got that the other kid, is it Suchek or something like that? Suchek. He's not a bad turn, so it's going to be difficult. Me personally speaking, I wouldn't hide Bruno in from the start. I'd try and keep it as much as we have, I'd maybe introduce him a little bit earlier tomorrow. Give him a half an hour or something like that. But like Laura said, I'd probably keep it as it was. I'd probably craft it right back. Obviously, talk back in. Pretty much keep the same team. They've got that winning mentality now. They know exactly what they need to do. It'll be difficult tomorrow, but I fancy we to get a draw. I think it'll be a score draw. Yeah,
I would say that. Ian, do you think about what you would like and what you think Eddie Howe's going to do in terms of Jamal Lascelles, if he is available? Do you think he comes straight back in?
If he wasn't captain, then I would say no. But then that doesn't really paint a good picture to the likes of Dan Burn, who had a phenomenal debut. If he's then wanting to try and fit 3 in, would he switch his whole formation just to fit his captain back in it? I think he came out and said, I think in his press conference today, that obviously players have got to perform, and if they're not up to it, there's other players ready to step in. Personally, I agree with Raza and Laura. I'd keep the same formation, pretty much the same team, and have Kraft at right back. I probably agree with Laura. I trust him a little bit more than Murphy. He is susceptible to a little bit of a rick, but I wouldn't change a winning formula if I could help it.
Yeah. Laura, just diving in a little bit on the Kraft situation. Do you think that, a lot of players have clearly improved under Eddie Howe? And when Kraft last played against Manchester United, I think he started that game. He actually had quite a good game and looked probably one of his best games as a Newcastle player. So do you think, having known that Trippier was going to be out and probably knowing that Manquillo was going to be out before it was kind of released to the general public, do you think a bit of time where Eddie Howe's had to focus on Kraft, that he's spotted his attributes and, you know, he could be an asset to the side?
Yeah, definitely. I think Crafts came under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism, and rightly so. He wasn't good enough. However, that was under a different manager, different mentality, a different style of play, all that. I think now that we've said before, there's competition for places now. Everyone's got to step up the game. There's better players around him there. If Burn and Shaw are in, trust them. Like that, they've had all week on the training pitch, and they would have known who was going to play, I would imagine. And like you say, they would have known who was going to be injured, and so everyone needs to just step up the game. And I think Howe would be, obviously Howe's the manager, I think it would be quite foolish of him to change, because I think players like Willock and Kraft, they need a run of games. It would be pointless to every other game, like, oh, Lascelles is back, whack him in, just because he's the captain. You've got to think about the position we're in, and we were fine without him. So keep it like that. I think the competition's good for players and the confidence is good for players. So it would be a real shame. I know you asked us about Kraft and I'm talking about Willock, but
no, that's how it works. The long and winding road, Laura, that one.
Yes, it would be a massive kick in the teeth for Willock when he was just starting to come good, to then whack him out for Bruno. Yeah.
Just going to the comments, Freddie, West Ham, they've obviously had a great season, and as Raza said, it's been, you know, speared by Declan Rice and his performances, rolling on from a great performance for England in the summer. But they can be a little bit up and down, and we have got a good record down there. So, Ian, do you think we should have anything to fear when we go down there, or do you think we can kind of not take it as a free hit, because I don't think we can afford any free hits, but do you think this might sort of play into our ability to maybe counter-attack and going back to that style of being able to counter teams?
Potentially, yeah. I think in terms of sort of with the 3 wins that we've had in a row, although obviously there's still pressure on because we're not completely out of it, but we'll maybe just play with a little bit more freedom. You seen, was it Leeds the other week went there? And the way that obviously Leeds play in terms of high intensity counter attack, I think that would play in our hands. Definitely nothing to fear. They have been very up and down. They are a good team, but I'd probably take a. Well, yeah, say I would take a draw. 100%, I'd take a draw, but I think a score draw, like Raza, I think that's the way it'll go.
Yeah, and Dan's just come in the comments about a good possible duel, and I probably, aside from Rice, who kind of keeps things ticking over very well in midfield, but Bowen's having an absolute worldie of a season, being touted for England as well. Raza, do you think that'll be a good duel between Targett and Bowen? And do you think there's any other players that we need to watch out for?
No, it'll be cracking, because I think Jared Bowen, he's probably been one of the most impressive players this season. You look at, obviously, World Cup coming up next, Christmas coming. You've got like Sancho, Grealish, you know, these young players who aren't really doing it at their clubs. And then there's Bowen, who's just, you know, he's having an outstanding season, not just scoring goals, but obviously assists. So I think in terms of who to watch, obviously Mikel Antonio is a big unit, you know. He's a threat. You've got Declan Rice, Bowen. They're a pretty well-drilled team, West Ham, you know. They've been a little bit up and down at home. I think that they're more impressive away. Yeah. They've obviously got the thing as well. Will Zuma play tomorrow? You know, he was in the squad against Leicester, and then he was unwell. Will it bring him back in tomorrow? Because to be honest, that could knock their team as well. You know, there's a lot of bad, obviously, and rightly so, bad publicity around it. Whether or not they'll include him could be beneficial for us, because our fans will not give him the lickings of a dog. Yeah. So, you know, that could play in his head.
If he is selected, it'll certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons. So
set you up with that one. That's an assist. I'm having that one.
So, Laura, good point raised by Vince here about should the team stay the same, apart from Trippier, obviously. Would you have Shelby as your captain, or do we think elsewhere? Or there's a shout there for Joe Linton, but do you think you'll go with Shelby as the captain, being the vice captain as usual?
Yeah. I think keep it the same again for that. Just the man management type of it. It would be a shame if Shelby is vice captain and then go, actually, I'm taking it off you at this point in the season when we're on that winning streak. However, I personally, we had this conversation in the pub last week with me dad and I'm kind of on the same page as him, is I don't think it matters who's got that armband on, because everyone is up their game with their leadership. You've got Trippier, you've got Joe Linton, you've got Shelby, you've got the Skulls. Everyone is telling each other what to do and encouraging people. So it doesn't really matter to me who's got that armband on, because everyone is such a team at the minute.
Yeah. And El Grande, brings in West Ham, not necessarily, although Antonio, as Raza was saying, is a big focal point for them. They aren't as direct, so possibly Shaw and Byrne might be a better fit than bringing Lascelles back in, but we shall see. Time will tell. So in terms of predictions, I know, Raza, you've mentioned there you fancy a draw. Is that a score draw, did you say? Or do you think
score draw.
Notes a piece.
I think it'll be ones each. I hope I'm wrong and we'll get a win, but ones each. That's my prediction. Are
you going to hazard a guess at a scorer for us?
I'm going to say Dan Byrne from a corner.
Big Dan Byrne.
Big Dan Byrne, eh?
Big Dan Byrne. Bernie is
Burnstar.
Burn dog. Laura, what's your prediction for the West Ham game? Win, lose, or draw?
I'm going to go shithouse a win, 1-0, Wood.
A word just before we come in, a word on the, some of the excellent shithousery that's sort of, I think since there was sprinkles of it before the Watford game, but I think after that really punishing last 10-minute equaliser, where really we were culpable, we released the ball quite early from the goalkeeper, and then hey-ho, it's in our net and about 5 passes later. But Ian, have you been impressed with some of the shithousery? Particularly, I like Dubravka's against Villa at the weekend.
Massively. So in it, because I was watching it in the house, and sort of on the Telegram group, and I thought he can't be injured again. He's a goalkeeper. Like he's probably one of the most injured players. But I think it was just really clever game management. And I think to sort of succeed, you need that little bit of shithousery, like wasting time. And so I'm all for it. We're getting points. Like if it's happening against us, hate it. But if we're doing it, then you might as well join the club.
Yeah, I just think that would have been a game that a few months ago we would 100% have lost.
Yeah.
But
completely.
for all that shithousery, I think we managed to hold off.
Yeah. So Ian, what are you going for your prediction for the game?
I'm going 2-2 draw. I think there'll be goals in it.
Okay.
I think some maximum to get a goal. And I would love to see again. I just want Chris Wood to start scoring. Yeah, just for his confidence.
I mean, it like you say, it is obvious, it's for his confidence. But I think just to see him just break his duck for Newcastle would be, even if it's in a draw, I just think he would just need that goal. And then because when he grabbed the ball against Villa when we possibly had a penalty, but then it was, I would say downgraded, but having Trippier on the ball isn't really a downgrade. But when he picked up the ball, I was a bit like, oh no.
It was a lot of pressure.
There's echoes of, I think Joe Linton missed a penalty a few years ago, when it was a key moment. And, maybe it's Chris Wood as a centre midfielder as well. Who knows? Just before we move on, you can see along the ticker along the bottom there, we've got the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. It's really, really close to hitting 8,000 subscribers, which is absolutely phenomenal. Really hard work by Chris and all the guys who've been doing the channel for years. So really help us reach the figure by clicking that subscribe button, and you get excellent content from us for. So, I mean, that in itself is worth a sub, I would say. Is that what you say? Did you say a sub?
Apparently so.
Whatever. But yeah, get us, I think it was like 7,980, whatever it is. So we're so close to 8,000, which would be a massive achievement. If we can get that before the West Ham game, the omens are good. So, right, so I'm going to go. I think we will win. I think we're going to carry on this winning. I was trying to Google what our longest winning run in the Premier League was and when it was. I'm going to assume it was under probably Bobby Robson, which we'll come to in a moment. But yeah, I'm gonna go 1-0. I'm gonna go 1-0 clean sheet, 1-0 shit house. Do it, I reckon. That's what we'll say anyway. So, as I just mentioned there, today was a day where one of our former legendary managers, Sir Bobby Robson, would have been celebrating his 89th birthday, born in 1933 in Sacriston in County Durham. Absolute legend of a game. I'm sure there's not been, I'm sure there's been many tributes to the man over the years, and certainly he had an opportunity to come to Newcastle when Keegan left, and the time wasn't right. But then he did eventually come when our Dutch friend Ruud Gullit wandered off into the sunset. So, Laura, for you, Bobby Robson, the man was a legend, but do you have any favourite memories of Bobby and what he brought to Newcastle and what he brought to your life supporting Newcastle United?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I grew up with him, to a certain degree. He's like everybody's granddad. He reminds us of me granddad. He was just touching on, when you sent the link earlier about the 10 best moments, and my favourite is just all these weird comments that he got wrong. I love them. The Amiobi one's possibly my favourite with the but my overall personal memory of him was just how nice a man he was. I remember I was at my cousin's in Lancaster, and she lived next door to him, and he had just been sacked, and we pulled up and he was just cleaning it. I don't know what you call it. What do you do to your leaves? Brush them or rake them? Whatever.
Depends how you're feeling. Depends how you're feeling.
I can't remember.
Depends what garden implement you've got. If you've got a rake,
if you're posh, you'll hoover them up with one of them. Oh no, you blow them, don't you?
You're thinking them up in the
Yeah, you definitely didn't have a hoover. Yeah. It was. I don't know what utensil he had, but it was, well, anyways, he was doing, and he stopped to speak, and he was just so pleasant, and it was literally my dad will correct us, but I'm sure it was days after he had been sacked, and it was just, he was just so pleasant and so nice, and had time for a while. But we're just going into my cousin's house, and he was just dead nice, and that is my lasting memory of him.
Just a gentleman, wasn't he?
Yeah, just a nice granddad.
Raza, your memories of Sir Bobby, or a favourite memory, or something that really sticks with you?
Well, there's a few really, because like you touched on, when he come and took over from Gullit, we were a club sort of on the decline. There was just no harmony in the dressing room. Obviously, I think we touched on it last week with Rob Lee. A lot of senior players, they had been overlooked, and Shearer was quite close to leaving, and it was Bobby who come in, and I think it was it Chef Wednesday?
Chef Wednesday, his first game, yeah.
So, we just the improvement, everything, he's a gentleman in the game, I think you've just got to look at all the managers, your Pep Guardiolas, your Mourinho's, everybody's took a bit of Bobby Robson, when he's managed them and things like that, and, they're using it today. But one of the biggest memories was Leverkusen away in the Champions League, which happened to be on his birthday, and all the Toon faithful serenading him, and he's just his little wave and cheeky smile from the dugout. But now he was a legend, and you look at the likes of Italia 90, the bond he had with the players, and likes of Lineker still love him. Gaza absolutely adores the man, and he adored Gaza as well. But just a legend, and legends hide about too many times. But he is a proper legend, he's a footballing god. Yeah.
Ian, your thoughts on Sir Bobby?
You just kind of put into words how loved he was. Sort of Laura touched on his funny quote of calling sort of people different names. He was. There's a quote that I absolutely love. It was possibly the BBC Personality Award. He got a Lifetime Achievement Award, and his speech was, "No one wins everything on their own. Even Tiger Woods has a caddy." And with the sort of enormous figure that he is and all the success that he's had, to still be so humble and say, I haven't just won this on my own. I've had staff, players, family.
Yeah.
Just such a humble man. I actually went to I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, actually. I went to the last public appearance where it was like the England.
Yeah,
the Legends game.
Yeah, I was there and all.
And I think just the whole stadium on their feet, and he still sort of looked, like you say, as engaged as ever. In terms of football.
He had a twinkle in his eye, didn't he?
He did,
yeah.
He
did. Yeah.
And then obviously he's passing when sort of you went to the Leazes end and you've seen football shirts from not just the Northeast, all over UK, all over the world. Just such a humble man. I sadly never sort of got to meet him, but I agree with Laura. He's like, I felt like I grew up with him. If there's one person I wish I had met in life, it would have been him.
Yeah. Is he a favourite Newcastle manager, Ian?
100%. I think obviously I know what Keegan done for the club, but he was just before sort of my era. So Bobby Robson for me, absolutely hands down.
Same for you, Laura?
Yeah, and totally the same reasons as Ian.
Yeah.
I loved Keegan, met Keegan.
Yeah.
But when I started really like getting into football and watching it more and becoming more like aware of it, definitely Robson.
Yeah. Raza, is it a bit of a toss-up for you between Keegan and Bobby Robson, or is Joe Kinnear in there as well?
No, for me it's Keegan. You know, close second Bobby Robson, but you know we were blessed growing up with in the Keegan era, as they say. So Keegan for me, but Bobby's a very, very close second.
Do you guys see a little bit of sort of synergy between the appointment of Howe, the appointment of Robson, the appointment of Keegan? You know, really key points in our existence, really, where the club was to different extents on the bones of its arse. You know, when Keegan came in while staring at the third division, he managed to turn things around. When Robson came in, you know, players were unhappy. You had, you know, players like Rob Lee, who we talked about last week, you know, excluded from training. You know, there was a big problems at Newcastle. We were looking at relegation, and Robson came in and had this transformative effect, you know, without obviously comparing how directly he's only been manager for 100 and odd days. But do you feel like there's an element, there's an element
parallels.
of Robson, there's parallels with him there? Do you think, guys? Do you think, Laura? Do you think there's a bit of Robson in the way that how does his business? He's nice. He seems quite tough as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm going to offend a few people here, but for me, Howe possibly tops it purely because this is the beginning of hopefully the best Newcastle era that we're ever going to have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. There's definitely parallels, and there's definitely signs from each manager that you've mentioned there. But for me, these are going to be key moments that you look back on and remember. Keegan's, Robson's, now your Howe's.
Yeah.
What I think. Sorry, Roger, go on.
I was just going to go to a few of the comments there, just so Dan, you know, his memory about the little jig against Leeds. I think that was around Christmas time, Raza. But probably you possibly there, but
I was.
And then Vince, Bobby said that Solano used to call him and play the trumpet down the phone to him. It's funny, they had a bit of a, you know, two big parts of my Newcastle supporting time, but they had a bit of a fractious relationship at times, didn't they, around Nobby going off and playing for Peru, and that was always a bit of a bone of contention. But I'm sure a trumpet down the telephone line soon soothe those over. Again, Tom leaning into those feelings that Robson sometimes mixed his metaphors and mixed his names up a little bit. So on Kieran's eye of the world was this lobster, always a favourite one. And I think Ian, you mentioned about the sports personality of the year, where all the players from England and then various other teams that Robson had been the manager of. The ovation that he got, I think that's a big memory for Marty as well. For me, a lot of the things that you guys have spoke about, but also I have one of my favourite things of Bobby was when he was manager of Barcelona and Ronaldo, the best Ronaldo, scored that goal against. I'm sure someone will come in the comments where he took on about Compostela, I think it possibly was, and he took on about 6 or 7 players. And Robson just goes like, he comes out the dugout and he's looking around absolutely dumbfounded as to how this player has done this thing. And like, for me, he was so demonstrative in all of his he was such a personality, it really summed him up. And I think when there was a program about Robson, Ronaldo talked about that incident where he scored this goal and somebody showed him the video of Robson just going like, how do you explain this phenomenon? So yeah. So Paul's there. I watched that the day, Ryan. Ha ha ha. And Freddie, I think if you all probably remember this one, the preseason game where Jermaine Jenas tried to dink a penalty, and Robson he came on afterwards, and it was a preseason, but Robson was a winner and he wanted to win, and he hid his emotions fairly well. Just a couple others before we move on. Davey saying he was a people person. Dan Whitten talking about Mourinho, and about obviously Mourinho says he's a little magpie, and he was just loved by everybody, including our one-time arch nemesis, Sir Alex Ferguson. So he was just an absolute legend. And Davey Eddie there, when Craig Bellamy changed the team, I think the thing with Robson is he had the experience, and he knew that we had a team with Alan Shearer in. Now, amazing striker. Over the years, he'd been powerful, but he'd been injured. He'd been affected by these injuries, and he built this team that was around Shearer, and he had the pace of Dyer, he had the pace of Bellamy, he had the legs of Jenas, what a team he did build, and we were so close. I don't know about you, Raza, but maybe if you look back, like, we were really, really close to really, I know we're qualified for the Champions League, etc., but we were so close to doing something on us, so Bobby, and
just a shame it ended when it did.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned like Kieran Dyer there. They didn't help. I remember going to Borough away. Kieran Dyer being asked to play on the right, and he categorically refused. I mean, that for me, you can't do it. I'd play anywhere just to play it with a Toon. But I think Robson had said to him, "Where are you going to play for England?" Who were playing, I think, was a Tuesday or the Wednesday night at St James's Park. Actually, he said, "If you're asked to play on the right for England, will you?" And he couldn't answer. And then, sure enough, I think he did play in the England game. He got booed at St James's Dyer. So, although we had a great team, I think Dyer sort of apologised. Like now, he'd done his booking the way he treated Bobby Robson. He sort of disrespected him. I think a lot of players will look back and think if only they'd had a little bit more respect. I think maybe he's the sort of thought, he's just an old fella. You know what I mean? Just like the young'uns anyway, not your like Shearers or like that. But I think the young'uns, if they had that time again, they would listen to him. He wasn't just like a daft old man. He would have improved their game a lot more than he did. So,
and what I liked about Robson as well, he would keep his his coaching team fresh. He would bring in new faces, because a bit like Alex Ferguson, I think he realised that, like you say, he would be considered an elder statesman of the game. So to try and keep things fresh, I think he was a lot of ways ahead of his time and very innovative. So, and I love that video of when Gary Lineker came to.
He's on about the doors.
The door frames. And
look at the doors, Gary. Look at the doors. Just. He loved the Toon, he loved the place, And
they talk about the Italia 90 and saying we were really close, Gary. We're really close. Talking earlier on there, Ian, about goosebumps. That really nearly put me.
You've seen that? I've got goosebumps again just from that, because I think they possibly played that video or a similar video just before his sports achievement award. And he goes, I don't think about it all the time, but every time a big game comes up, whisker away.
Whisker away. That was it.
Absolutely loved not just the region, but he loved football. And obviously, I know sort of when big personalities like pass on and you get like a few jibes and stuff like that. I've never heard one bad word said about Bobby Robson, even from like Sunderland fans, anything like that. Everyone just had so much respect for him.
Yeah, and we'll finish on a nice personal story from Tom here, who's he's a long time watcher and he's a frequent contributor. So about loving the cricket, asked to speak at the dinner at Lord's, and I represent England at football, and turn it to Captain Nasser Hussain. But imagine walking out here like Saddam Hussein. There you go. So I've never heard that one before, but that's an absolute classic. So well done, Tom. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that one. So just in kind of moving on from Bobby Robson in other news that's happened this week, a lot of people might have been surprised possibly to see young player Kellen Watts being given a 2-year extension to his contract. He's been at Wigan this season, and I spoke to a guy called Barry Worthington, who does a podcast for Wigan, and it seems like he's been doing well. He's been developing well. Do you think we're going to start seeing some of these younger players coming through, Raza? Do you think, we've had the lad, the half Scotch, half Belgian lad who's been De Bol, that's his name, he was in the squad last week. Do you think in the summer it's going to be quite interesting to see what the makeup of at least the pre-season squad is, and how many minutes some of these guys get? Do you think it could be time? I mean, Kellen Watts is a left-sided defender, central defender. He can spray a pass, and he's quite. He reads the game pretty well. So, do you think we could possibly see Kellen Watts stay at Newcastle next season, or do you think you might need another season, possibly with Wigan in the Championship, if they get promoted?
I think, given obviously the spending ability, I think he probably will go back out on loan, just pretty much for experience more than anything else. I think we'll blend young'uns in, because it is where academy gets better and the coaching etc. gets better. That's going to improve them. And yes, these we're now the money we've got to spend, but I think they also have tapped into us as well. And we love nothing better than a Geordie pulling on a black and white shirt, or somebody who's come through our academy who in class of 1-1. So I think they will try and invest in, if we can improve the young players that we've got, give them a chance, And I think it's good, because I think for too long our academy and our youth teams have been overlooked, the first team got knee cash injection or funding, I mean, you look at them teams, where academy rating was terrible. I think Sunderland and Borough have got a better academy rating than us, So the whole club collectively, everything, even into the women's team, there's funding going in there. So I think everybody, will improve. But in terms of him, I think he will go back out on loan. They in me home, the Championship, it's a canny place to learn your trade, So, and if he's good enough, it'll show, and you'll end up coming back to us. So
yeah, I mean,
anyway.
I think the feeling is from a lot of Wigan fans is he's played pretty much every game this season, and they're hoping to keep a hold of him. They were hoping to sign him permanently, but then we've signed this 2-year extension, so maybe. But coming on to the academy, I mean, probably nobody will know much about this gentleman, John Morling, who's apparently the Brighton Academy manager who we're trying to approach. But Laura, do you think that we're starting to see what Staveley and what PIF want to kind of do with Newcastle? We're seeing a lot of these high level appointments. Do you think we're possibly seeing why they didn't appoint anybody before the transfer window, because they want to get things right, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I think we always knew what their plans were. It was just a case of getting it right and at the right times. And I think just touching on what you were saying about Kel Watts before, I think it's a shame for these players like Elliot Anderson, Kel Watts. I think it's just a bit too early for them in terms of the investment in the academy. I think when we're going to see the improvement is the younger players and the couple of generations previous to them. I think
5-6 years.
Yeah, I think I think it's a shame, but they've just missed out, and I don't think. I don't think they're ever going to feature first team for us. But in terms of like the academy and the appointment of whoever this guy is, who I've never heard of and probably never will. But yeah, it just again shows the intent in their plans, in that it's not just about the first team, it's about the bigger picture and everything that goes with it.
And I suppose, Ian, picking up on what Laura said about the bigger picture, whether it's just Twitter chat or whatever, but there's been a lot of talk about, I suppose we are perhaps getting slightly ahead of ourselves, given that we're not secure in the division yet. But there's been a lot of talk about the stadium, about St James's Park, about extension, about moving to a different site. What's your kind of initial feeling about those sorts of things? I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen, but there's been a concept knocked up by a local architecture company of what Newcastle's ground and what Newcastle's training facilities and, you know, a community feeling stadium could look like in the future. What's your feelings on, you know, the potential to leave St James's Park, extend St James's Park? Where would you stand with that?
I think, obviously, we're years and years ahead and getting ahead of ourselves. We don't know sort of what's going to come to fruition with the takeover, but obviously their aspirations is to be the best team in the world. As gutting as it is, I think the position of St James's leaves you very limited in terms of what you can do with that stadium. So I think eventually, somewhere further down the line, it would be inevitable that probably a new site, a new stadium would be built. But I would love to keep it, just the city centre feel of it. It's sort of, you come out, it's not just sort of, it's like the heartbeat of the city. And I think it's a little bit sad the way it's went lately, because I remember my sort of earliest memories were getting off the metro at Monument, and you could as soon as you got off, you could see St James's. But now, sort of with it all being built up with sort of student accommodation and whatnot, it's lost that feel a bit. But I think sort of years down the line, it's probably inevitable if you are wanting to be the biggest team in the world to have a bigger, sort of better stadium.
I'm totally against it, because I whinge walking just from the back of the St James's if I've got to walk to the town.
And once again, we come back to how this stadium change would affect Laura's life. There we go.
I'm not
If you put that forward to them, maybe they'll just knock the plans on its head.
I'll start a petition.
Oh, Laura, never change. Laura, never change. Raza, are you? Do you think that the move to a new stadium, a new site, is inevitable, or are you a bit like me and you want to dig in and stay in that beautiful cathedral on the hill?
I agree with Ian. Because I think if we are to have the success that possibly the PIF, you know, envisage we're going to have in, say, 10, 15 years' time, then we probably will need a bigger stadium. And we know we can't extend St James's. For me personally, though, I think stay where we are. You know, it's like you say, it's a cathedral on the hill. It's banging the city centre, and you know, a lot of away fans love coming to away games just for that as well. You know, not just home fans. And it's for me, I think it would lose its appeal. You see, you know, Arsenal went from Highbury, and yes, Highbury needed done up and things like that, and you know, they needed a bigger capacity. But I think you lose a little bit of that sparkle, you know, if you leave it, because it's been a constant for so many years. But money talks, isn't it? You know, and if we are successful in a few years' time, and they can double the capacity and get more money in, then we will move. You know, it's as simple as that. And it's heartbreaking, but hey ho, you know. But I'd like to stay where we are, because it's, you know, it's our home. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I'll be exactly the same. You know, I mean, there may be scope to extend over the Gallowgate end, but I think the reason the PIF and Amanda Stavely, you know, bought into Newcastle is because of that atmosphere. And that, I know the result wasn't what we wanted it, but that Tottenham game where the city became alive again.
Yeah.
And I think you can't really put a price on that. And I think we need to be having lockouts. We need to be having waiting lists. And because as somebody said in the comments, you know, like Manchester City, a lot of the time they kind of sell that, you know. I never want to be in a situation where we have this massive, beautiful 90,000 capacity stadium and we're having to encourage people to come in, you know, like.
Yeah.
So for me, I would stay at St James's Park until the day that we die.
100%.
So, but
Do you think as well, with the amount of money that we do have, is it? I mean, obviously, I'm not no businessman by any means, but did they really need extra money coming in, or?
Well, there is that. Good point.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think, and there's a couple of the comments. I think we could probably expand to 60,000, and that would be enough. How. Because I do think you lose a bit that once you get these corporate things in, you do lose that atmosphere, and you do lose that, that passion. And, I say that, War Flags has been such an instrumental part of what we've done in the last, well, obviously they've been doing it for years, but particularly in the last, couple of months when, the players have really needed it, and it's really galvanized everybody together. And I think moving away from that will be, I think it'd be foolish, to be perfectly honest with you. But there we go. I mean, these decisions will be taken high above our heads, but I feel like probably naively that PIF and, they would take in consideration the type of concerns that we have and the people in the comments have. I do feel that they would listen to, what the fans are saying, and possibly, safe standard might increase capacities going forward in the long term, which I will be a big exponent of. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. There's a lot of horror stories around changing stadiums and things like that. So we'll see. We shall see. So we've kind of covered a lot of the bits and bobs from the last couple of weeks, and obviously touched on Sir Bobby there as well. And this week, our Hall of Fame. Well, actually, I should probably reflect on last week's Hall of Fame. We did a Londoners, our famous Londoners, and predictably, I would say, Robert Lee ran out winner with 50% of the vote. So thank you to all those people who voted for that one. I think it was Decker had Rob Lee. In second place was Sir Les, and then Supermac, and then and I said Joey Barton there. Warren Barton came in with 7% of the vote. But I do think with all of these polls as well, it is a generational thing. I do thank Raza for bringing in Supermac from the 70s heyday, to represent some of our more senior followers and senior fans. So this week, however, we thought we'd have a little bit of Gaelic flair, because today is actually International Day of Wine. So that's why, went with the French. There's always a method behind the madness. So yeah, it's also International Battery Day as well. So if you're feeling charged up, that's probably why. Anyway, so a fountain of useless information, Raza, me. So I thought this week we would discuss our favourite French players, often with flair, often with frustration. We've had a lot of French players. Actually, it was easier to find French players than it was players who come from London, which probably says its own commentary. We've had a few comments from people as well at the start, from people like Tom and that, who've mentioned a few of the guys. So as we always do, we'll go with some honourable or dishonourable mentions first. Laura, have you got a dishonourable or an honourable mention that didn't quite make it for you, but
I'm glad you said that there. I was going to have to ask you what that meant. I didn't know if you wanted me proper one or me. So you don't want me proper one now. You just want me other one.
Not just yet. We'll hear your dishonourable one really quickly.
I've gone for Remy because so do you want us to say like how good he was, how bad he was? Like,
well, no. So an honourable mention is somebody who you thought was really good but you didn't pick.
Right, honourable.
A dishonourable mention is somebody who was shit, and that's the reason you didn't pick him.
No, right. Sorry. I went with honourable mention. I could have picked Remy because I really liked him.
Yeah.
He scored a lot of goals, and I thought he won Player of the Year and things when he first came. But I know it did turn sour at the end, and I know that. But which is why I didn't pick him as me top. As me what's it called?
Yep.
Honourable mention.
Yeah.
Honourable mention, yeah.
No, that's why I didn't pick him as my first choice. But yeah, I really did quite like him, and it was just a shame that he clearly didn't want to be up in Newcastle and wanted to be down London. But yeah, so I've gone for him.
Yeah, so he was your possible, but you didn't quite make it. Ian, was there anybody who sprung to mind, either honourable or dishonourable?
I actually have a couple of honourables and one dishonourable. A couple of honourables. One of my favourite players, sort of growing up, was Olivier Bernard. I just really liked him for his hair to start off with. He had
good place to start, I guess.
Cool hair, but he was just sort of a no nonsense left back.
Yeah.
Really good, sort of solid player. Which brings us on to me. Other honourable mention was Johan Gufran. I just think he was an absolute grafter. He wasn't by any means the best player in the world, but he put 100% effort in. And I think it was his goal against Derby, one of my favourite things ever. Just the sound that he made hitting that ball was phenomenal. He
had a bit of a journey, didn't he? He was probably at one point would have been in everybody's dishonourable mentions, and then he kind of, when he came in, he came in with that glut of French players, and he had a good start, and then he kind of, as Pardew's time at Newcastle kind of went off the rails a little bit, so did he. And he was in there at the side, and then I think a lot of people are probably surprised that he stayed around for that season in the Championship.
Yeah. Me dishonourable mention is Florian Thauvin.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Simply because I think I've seen him, like, watched maybe 2-3 live games, and he genuinely spent more time dicking about with his hair than playing football, and that just really, really irritated us. So he was me dishonourable mention. But then he went back to France, and he got in the French.
He got in the French squad.
He
got into the World Cup winning squad, so
he would have probably got into One Direction as well.
Yeah. I think what sealed it for him was when he came in in his tuxedo. When I think that was
him and Chance. Was it no?
Him and
Mbemba,
yeah. I think that kind of put an a full stop behind Steve McLaren's lack of control over that team. Like, I've got a feeling you wouldn't have any players rocking up in tuxedos under Eddie Howe.
I reckon you might, like,
just loafers.
I reckon if Maximum wanted to wear a tuxedo, they would let Maximum wear.
Honestly, I really think that Eddie Howe he's a ruthless bastard. I
don't think he would take any shit. Like,
I think he would. Yeah. Raza, coming to you then. Your honourable or dishonourable mentions. Who was yours?
Honourable, and he didn't play for us very long, which is a shame because I thought he was a right good player. Lejeune, the centre half. I thought when I seen him play, I thought, we've got a canny player here. And I always remember, I think it was Harry Kane done him at the near the Gallowgate, and he done his.
Was that his debut?
I think it was. I think it was his first game.
First game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he come back from that and he was solid. Honestly, I thought at the time he was probably the best defender we had. And it's just a shame that obviously managers come and change things, and you've got to look at who he was playing alongside with and stuff like that, And it's a shame now. I think he's in Spain, isn't he? He went out to Spain, and it's a shame because I think he's a class centre half,
And he gave us that night at Everton as well, didn't he?
Yes, that did. Yes. Was it 2 goals he got? I think.
Brace,
in minutes,
30 seconds or something.
Yeah.
So just him. Really, and Stefan Givosh as well. While I'm on,
me.
He come with like he was a world beater, wasn't he? I think it was on the back of the '98 World Cup and
didn't score.
Score. Sexy football for Hullet, and he was gonna be this brilliant centre forward, and he was absolute shit.
Coney. I think he was subbed on his debut against Liverpool.
I was against Liverpool.
Just going to the comments then for some honourable and some less honourable mentions. David Ginola, who inevitably will be spoken about in the next 10 minutes or so. Givosh, one of my favourites, Pancake. Fabulous Pancake. And El Grande has even gone with the best French 11. Lionel Perez, Debuchy, Bernard, Distan, Lejeune, Ginola, Kabay, Sissoko, Robert, Alex at Maximum, and Remy. Apart from the keeper. Possibly.
Yeah.
Not a bad bloody side, actually, that, to be fair. That is a good side. Coming back to Bernard as well, I like the way that he stayed in the area. Well, he came back to the area, and he's had a lot to do with, sure racism, the red card, and he does a lot of charity work in the Northeast. So
I think he bought Durham City as well, my dad was saying.
I believe he did.
I think he owns them, yeah.
Does he own a pub in Blythe as well? Is that him?
Ooh,
I've heard whispers of that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's he owns the commission.
Well, that may be Oliver Bernard. I don't know, you know what I mean? So again, we've got Adrian's gone with Remy. Laura, your honourable mention, and the honourable. This is a bit of a one, bit divisive, possibly. Charles Insomnia, as he was he was called by Joe Kinnear. Nzogbia, what do we think?
I like
it's a funny one. Yeah, a lot of potential, a lot of attitude, I would say.
But then, obviously, I would probably have that attitude if my boss was Joe Kinnear. So
yeah, to be fair. And just very quickly, this was my honourable mention. A player who came in, I believe, under Glenn Roeder, and I think we got him on a free transfer from Manchester City. Nothing really was expected of him, and I think we had a little campaign in Europe as well, and he did really well for us, you know. And I think probably when we do something on Cult Heroes, I think Antoine Sibierski might, you know, he might get a mention. He might even get chosen by somebody. You never know. He came in at a time when he wasn't really a striker, but he was played up front, and he did get some important goals for us. So, you know, and he was my honourable mention. And then obviously you have the dishonourable regulars, Sissoko and
Boom Song.
Stuff like that. Yeah, Boom Song, Distan. I actually liked Goma. Remember Goma?
Alan Goma.
Yeah, Alan Goma. He came in under Ruud Gullit, I think, and he played a full season. He was Auxerre captain. I think he played for France. Then he went off to. He had a bit of a run at Fulham. So some decent. You know, we've had some good players from France, and we've also had some poor ones. Yeah, Debussy.
My dad's was Debussy's.
Yeah.
Aye, my dad liked Debussy as well.
Aye. And Cabela as well. Scott has got Cabela as well. So yeah. So we had some, you know, we've had some interesting players. I think we've probably been linked with every French player that's ever came to the Premier League. I remember being linked with Giroud endlessly until he signed for Arsenal. So plenty of French players. So let's get down to business, as they say. We'll go with these are, again, I'll give my disclaimer, these are our picks, and hopefully there's no ambiguity with this one because it's just if they're French, okay? So I'm going to go first because I've probably got the weakest, although probably one of the most talented, but probably the weakest shout for the Hall of Fame. And mine is Hatem Ben Arfa, an absolute, on his day, probably one of the best players I've ever seen play for Newcastle United, ever. But he came with his baggage. A lot of that was around his midriff, unfortunately. Never scored a bad goal. He was an inspiration to the side at times. You know, his debut against Everton. I think we had a bit of a real pull to try and get him from Marseille. I believe he sort of dug his heels in at Marseille and really wanted to come to Newcastle. And I think he's one of these players who likes to play for that underdog type of team where he can be the focal point, he can be the main man, because he went to Paris Saint-Germain and it didn't really work out for him. And then he went to Nice and he had a great old time. And then he went, he's now, I mean, he's back at, well, not back at, but he's back in France and he's at Lille now. So yeah, I mean, the goals against Blackburn, the goals against Bolton. And one of his best games was the game against West Brom for me, where he was instrumental in, I think we beat West Brom 4-1. I don't think
was that when we wore the orange kit?
Orange shirt,
with white shorts, yeah.
And he absolutely just ran the show on that game. And it just showed, and again, what could have been with a player like that. But I think he's one of those players a bit like that Tarat, who was at QPR,
yeah.
He's this mercurial. I think Alan St-Maximin we have now is a similar player, but I think Alan St-Maximin's got his head screwed on a lot more.
He's more of an athlete, I think.
He is more of an athlete, yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Laura. But, you know, I feel like Ben Arfa has had far more ability. I would go as far as to say that he's probably our ability-wise, since someone like Peter Bierzi, he is the best player on a one-off game who played for Newcastle for a long time. a long time.
Do you think that Rogers knows he's got the weakest, so is just really exaggerating?
Trying to pull
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really trying to push him up there. I'm hoping that some of the younger fans will really get on board with Hatton Ben Arfa. Because I know who I'll pick, but there we go. So, so my shout was Hatton Ben Arfa. So hopefully you get some votes, but we shall see. Right, I'm going to go next. I think we'll go with Raza. Come on, Raza. Who's your pick for the Hall of Fame and why?
Mine is David Ginola. Reason why, he's just a handsome bastard. You know, one of the best looking men I've ever seen in the black and white top.
Oh, wow.
All joking aside, all joking aside, like, what a player.
That's me, that.
Like, funnily enough, my mother started taking a massive interest in all the Toon when he signed. So
yeah,
I think
so did mine.
most women in the Northeast did. I remember when we signed him, obviously before like the social media and all that kind of stuff, you didn't know too much about sort of the foreign football. You only seen games, you know, if teams are playing each other.
On Trans World Sport, Raza.
Trans World Sport, aye.
2 weeks on the belt.
So when we signed him, I was like, obviously, I'm sort of still a bear. And I said to my father, you know, what's he like? And I just remember my father saying, "He's a nice French, you know, the sort of down tools, etc. You know." Fast forward, seeing him at Gateshead Stadium when the Toon played in the friendly against Gateshead, and I'll never forget, he done a turn and the whole crowd went with the fullback. Actually, he done the whole crowd. It was unbelievable, you know. And I just remember, like, he done things with a football that I'd only ever seen Beardsley do, really, you know. Obviously, he had the long hair. The goals he scored, I mean, I was sitting in the family enclosure at the 5-0 against Man United when he turned Gary Neville and he just whips that ball in. That was unreal. I think it was Ferenc Chanel. He scored a belter of a volley against them.
On the knee, and then
he just oozed class, you know. So for me, and this is why I sometimes criticise, like, to say Maxim, when people go, he's a world beater. I'm like, he couldn't fucking tie Ginola's shoelaces. Seriously, he's not that good. It's just a shame we didn't keep Ginola for longer, to be honest. I think that team were hard, you know, and then obviously he come in and I think Kenny Dalglish got rid of him.
Kenny Dalglish.
He went to Tottenham and that, you know, and he was a great player, you know, and he was the first one sort of like the proper foreign flair player that I'd seen, you know. I mean, some of the balls he used to put in the box for likes of Ferdinand, but just absolutely unreal. So yes, Ginola for me, he hasn't been beaten yet. There's a Frenchman at the town. He's and the fact he still loves it as well, you know. He's got a load of type with the Geordies and that. He always speaks highly of us. So, David for me, unreal.
Yeah, a lot of love for David Ginola. I think, you know, the people of a certain vintage like yourself and me.
Just one other thing you can probably remember this, Rog. I think was it against Borough when he done Neil Cox the fullback about 4 times, and Neil Cox just sat in the floor.
Turned him inside like a school jumper.
He just put his arms up and turned to the crowd to say, "What the fuck am I to do?" You know, you couldn't see now. So he was a legend, still is. Love him.
Yeah. Okay, Laura, I'm going to come to you next. Who is your choice? Who is your final decision? Beating Remy.
Yeah, I really feel like you would have went with Raza last, knowing that he had the best one. Because how you meant to beat that? Because obviously, I think we're all in agreement that
take the floor, Laura. No, come on.
Well,
I managed to make Ben Arfa sound plausible.
Yes, but you've got the gift of the gab. I haven't. I just talk a lot of shite. But I'm gonna just echo what Raza said, and I've picked Kabai because he's a handsome bastard. That is my argument.
Good looking, he was a good looking person. He was.
Oh, you could have picked a better picture than that.
Listen, I got all the Frenchmen with their tops off.
Yeah. Okay.
I even got Hatton Ben Arfa.
What about that?
No, so Johan Kabai, I mean, he was the dreamboat, wasn't he, Laura?
He was. Like, I think when I first started ExtraTyne, we did a dreamboat special. Were you on that? And I picked Kabai for that as well.
I think Paddy was on. I've got a feeling Paddy was on.
Paddy was on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I picked Kabay for that as well. But joking aside, like before we came on, I just typed into YouTube like Kabay goals just to refresh my memory, and he scored like a canny few, and they were all great goals. Like a bit like what you were saying about Hatton Ben Arfa, he didn't really score a scrappy goal. Maybe a one against Palace possibly was a bit scrappy if I remember. But all the others were like free kicks, outside the box.
Scored the one at Man United, didn't he?
I was just about to say that.
Brazil massive goal, Man United. Great player.
He scored like against Liverpool, Man U, all the teams that we weren't expecting to score against. He scored against, and I know again a bit like what I was saying before about Remy. I didn't realize until I was doing a bit of research about like Kabay, just so I had at least something to talk about apart from him being beautiful. That he refused to play. I didn't know that. Like towards the end, he
was trying to force a way.
I think Arsenal came in for them.
That's right.
And they didn't sell him, and then he refused to play. But then when I've like looked at the timeline, he then did come back and he did score again for us. So he didn't just
scored. I think he scored a great free kick against West Ham.
West Ham,
and then went on the other side.
I could be wrong, but I feel like that was his last game.
I think you're right.
You might be right.
I funnily enough, just a couple of 3 weeks ago or whatever, it came up on my Facebook, and I'd wrote on my memories that I'd wrote like, I wish I had known it was the last time I was going to say goodbye in the flesh, because I would have stared at him a bit longer. So and
Kabay as well. Obviously, the goals were, they were never dull, but I mean, some of his passing was just absolutely insane. I mean, I remember we played Stoke at home. I know a couple of the comments have been about the Stoke away game.
Was that
and
the 5-1?
He slid in Cisse with like just an, he absolutely surgically sliced open their defence. Scowcroft or what? No, not Scowcroft. What was the guy? Shawcross. Just like and he could just. He just made passes that were really difficult look absolutely incredible. And credit to him for missing a penalty deliberately against Newcastle as well.
Yes.
That was a happy moment as well.
My first ever season ticket game was Boxing Day Stoke 5-1. And he scored a couple then, and I just fell in love with him then. And then I didn't realise I only had like 3 weeks with him, and then he left.
It's like a holiday romance, Laura.
It was,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like a holiday romance. Honourable mention for somebody who's gone for Younger and Biwa. He was French. He was French. I think somebody before the comments from Tom there. But he was he was another player I thought was going to be pretty decent, but turned out didn't work out that way. Okay, so we've had Ben Arfa, we've had Ginola and Kabay. So Ian, state your case for your French fancy, please.
Well, I think my French fancy is probably the most handsome out of all of them. Another really fast winger in Gabi Obertan. No, I'm kidding, not Gabi Obertan. Laurent Robert, I think, again, just saying sort of before we came on, I was a bit too young to appreciate David Ginola. I think Robert is my era's David Ginola. He's just really good winger, could whip a ball in. Again, I don't remember him scoring a bad goal. I remember he scored a couple, I think it was against Spurs. One of them was about 40 yards out. I cannot remember if it was the same game where he sort of did like an overhead kick, like
a back heel, against. No, that was Fulham.
Was Fulham? Was it?
Yeah, it was a Fulham game.
Again, he's had Fulham exploits. Santi Muniz. Used his free kick in the Fulham goal. I mean, my favourite ever thing that he's ever done is ping the ball straight off Bernard's head and basically killed him for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think I was down at Leicester, possibly.
Honestly, one of the best things I've ever seen is Bernard just trying to stay on his feet, but obviously it showed that he could hit a ball. But yeah, like I say, he's probably my era. That's sort of the team that I grew up with was Robert, and on the left, and then sort of speed, Rob Lee in the middle, Solano as well. So Robert's and he's not too bad on the eye, I don't think.
No. I've got a feeling that I think it'll be between Ginola and Robert. I really do. Like, Robert is one of my favourite, players from Newcastle past. So I think it'll be close between Robert.
Like you say, it's that generation thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It just depends who votes.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah. So make sure you get yourself on Toon polls. Any final words, Ian, on Laurent Robert to try and push him over the line, see if we can get ahead of Ginola?
Just put that picture in his grey pants up again. That'll do it.
That'll do it.
For all the female followers. All the male followers as well.
I feel like I do genuinely love Robert. I think he's beautiful as well as Cabaye. But I think that picture of Ginola, I'll top it like that.
Not that one.
No. That was after his time at Hull.
I think that picture of Robert, that was his last game for, wasn't it? Where he just stripped off and then
hide his stuff into the Gallagher end, I believe. So
didn't he? If I remember right, he had a falling out with, was it Souness?
I think everybody did, didn't they? I think what happens is, like with a lot of these. I mean, I think somebody put in the comments about us. We always have a French flair winger. I think part of the contract with being a Newcastle fan is you have to have a French winger at some point, right or left. It doesn't really matter. You've got to have one who's a key player in the side at some point. Dan, unfortunately, there's no love for Riviere, so he's disappeared off. And
two have just popped into my head as well. Sylvain Marveau and who was that? Was it Amalfitano?
Amalfitano, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him play football, if I'm honest.
I'll tell you very quickly who I did like, because I know Raza needs the toilet. I'll tell you who I did like. He ended up playing for Tunisia, but Mehdi Abid, I really thought he was going to be. I really thought he was French born, I believe, but to Tunisia, and he had Tunisian descendants. So, like, he looked like he was going to be a player. I remember playing against Liverpool, and he was brilliant. Anyway, moving on from him. So, those are our choices. We have Hatem Ben Arfa, we have David Ginola, we have Johan Cabaye, and we have Robert. I nearly forgot that.
You nearly forgot, didn't you?
So, if check out, and Scott, I know Louis Saha had a very short time with Newcastle. I think that's a one that got away situation. Maybe we do a Hall of Fame of the ones that got away.
The heartbreaker.
Yeah, the heartbreakers. And we haven't, I can't believe we got through this. I'm going to mention now, but Booms. Did we mention Booms?
Yeah, he mentioned Booms, didn't he?
Wow.
But he went to didn't he go to Juve or Sporting Lisbon, and he was absolute, he was world class
there. I played for Juventus, but there we go. So, there you go. There are our choices. Again, they are only our choices, but I think we're quite safe here because I don't think we had any big French players before Ginola. I'm sure somebody will prove us wrong, but so I'll put the poll on later. It'll be on for about 24 hours on Toon polls. And hopefully we get some votes there, and we'll bring you up to date next week with who gets into the Hall of Fame as our famous French fancy, our Gallic god. And we have had a lot to choose from, but I think we've probably nailed the four that probably the most prominent and the most popular. So that brings us to an end as Raza is about to explode. So please stay tuned.
I've got a knot it. I've had to tie a knot it, honest.
Good lad. It's not long enough for a knot, is it?
Hey, man, stop telling people my secrets, will you?
Stay tuned on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel and all of their social media platforms, because we have a lot of shows going on at the minute. Like I said before, we got Beyond the Lines with Matty and a guy called James Joan, who's a West Ham podcaster. Chris and Mark and Thomas from All Flags did a West Ham preview, which is really, really interesting. Please check out as well the review of the Villa game as well. That was really interesting. Decker waxes lyrical about Joe Linton. What a performance against Villa, by the way. And something that is strangely, mystifyingly, like, you just can't stop watching it. A bit like when I was watching the planes come into Heathrow.
Oh, that was phenomenal viewing that.
I don't know. I couldn't have been the only one who was watching that Jet. What was it? Jet Sky something?
Big Jet TV.
Big Jet TV, watching the planes come in. And actually, I saw one today where there was a pilot was in the cockpit and he was filming himself, and then they had alongside it him landing as well. And I was like,
Are you allowed to do that? Like,
You do.
I mean, you're not. I was
he's a pilot. He does what he
you're not
wants.
going to crash into cars, but because you're in the air, really, aren't you?
No, I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he's not doing a selfie. Like,
so that's what.
He's not like, yeah, the wind's rocks, yeah, like, you know.
That's
like,
what I thought.
You are windy.
I love you, Chantel.
Was it? Did you not see the one where I think it was a Virgin flight, and his wife was watching the stream, and the bloke was going, "No pressure, your wife's watching." Oh, he's landed that beautifully.
God. Bloody hell. But yes, so I ended up watching a Survivor Series on football. We've got a football manager expert, Scott, as part of the Gallowgate Shots team. He's all the way over in the Netherlands. And he's done a Survivor Series, so he's picked up the season from where we are now, and he's playing through the season as football manager, and he's going to hopefully get us to survive. I think at the minute we're still in the bottom 3, but he's on a good run. He's just beat West Ham 3-2, I believe, and Ryan Fraser scored, so hopefully that's a good omen.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So stay tuned to all of those things, and obviously we've got my Uniteds. Laura's done hers, I've done mine. Raz's done his as well. I'm not sure, Ian, have you done one yet?
I haven't done one yet, no. I need to get into the studio to do that.
But for some of those things, you need to be a member. £2.99 a month keeps the channel going, and none of that money will go to Prince Andrew's exploits at Pizza Express. So none of your money will go to Prince Andrew. It will all go back into Gallowgate Shots to try and keep the content coming in and try and improve the stuff that we can deliver to you. And somebody asked before about my t-shirt. It's a Raji t-shirt.
Rad City?
Raj City.
Raj City.
That's the one I
do some good t-shirts.
Well. So they do some good t-shirts. So, Laura, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us, Ian, and as always, Raza. Thank you to those people who've commented, and please like, share, subscribe, and retweet the poll, and see if we can get
tell
some
your
good
friends about it.
Tell your friends about it. There
get your family watching it on a Saturday morning, like I do. I've got 3 fans. One's me mum and dad. They're not the same person. One's me mum, one's me dad, and then me little lad. Who I'm taking on a stadium tour tomorrow. He's really excited about it.
I love it, man. It's good.
He's turned into an absolute hooligan in the last 2 weeks. So
he got some Stone Island gear and that, you know.
Get the badge in. Get the badge in.
Get the badge in. Wait, get it on DHK. It's much cheaper. Anyway, so thank you everybody for watching. Good luck to the lads on Saturday morning. How are the lads? And let's get 3 points. So everybody wave. Say bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.